Sometime in the early 1800s, the Trundle family plotted out a piece of their land for a family cemetery. So today we're going to look at the Trundle family cemetery in the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. So stay with us and let's dig deep. Hey everybody, it's Appalachian Cemetery hunting again, and we are looking at the cemeteries in and around the Great Smoky Mountains here in East Tennessee. Now the video, like I said, is about the Trundle family in Sevier County. It's a very old cemetery, and the first burial was in 1829 that we could find. Now we have a map, of course, showing that it is off of State Route 338, and it's south of 407, exit of the Interstate 40, and it's just north of Sevierville. Now there's only 74 people buried here, but they do have some history along with them. So let's go ahead and get started. We have Benjamin Cannon Birdwell, May 11th, 1854 to May 18th of 1854. And sadly, that is a child, of course, only 7 days old. And that's things that we're going to have to, unfortunately, deal with. Is there's a lot of children back then. You know, no doctors, no medicine, modern medicine. So let's move on. We have another infant son of the Birdwell family. We don't have any dates for him. Then there is Harriet Gilbert Boland, 1856 to 1877. And we have her son, Richard H. Boland, October of 1876 to March of 1878, another baby, just under 18 months old. Lawson Brabson, we don't have a birth date for him, but he did die in 1879. And Lawson served with the Company D of the 1st Regiment of the United States Colored Heavy Artillery in the Union Army during the Civil War. Then we have Drusilla Lewis Trundle Burns, 1827 to 1903. Edgar Burns, June 10th, 1878 to June 23rd of 1878, another baby, 13 days old. We have his father, John Tillman Burns, 1853 to 1923. Joseph William Burns, July of 1852 to February of 1853, another child, 7 months old. Then there is Levan Wilson Burns, 1828 to 1863. And according to the post that we found, he died in the Civil War, but we're not really sure what side he fought on. And now there is Mary Jane Burns, 1847 to 1848, another baby, only a year old when she passed. And it's sad that, when they plotted out the land, they predicted all this. They knew that children died young back then, or there was so much problems in childbirth, or whatever the case may be. They would make their little family plots near their home place so they could take care of them. So let's move on. We got Rebecca McMahon Burns, 1850 to 1884. Susan Allen Burns, 1865 to 1910. And look at the hand-carved headstone with the finger pointing toward heaven. I love those headstones. And then her son, Victor L. Burns, and he only lived for 1 day in 1892. Then we have William C. Burns, 1856 to 1883. And unfortunately, another infant son from the Cannon family, born and died in 1848 and just lived under a month old. Next, we have his brother, J.T. Cannon. We don't have any dates for him. Then there's Julia Huffacker Cannon. That's a new one. 1833 to 1856. Huffaker. That's it, Huffaker. Next, we have her husband, William H. Cannon Jr., 1817 to 1901. And Julia was his second wife. And according to some of the information that we found, William was a successful businessman in the area. And he was a merchant and a farmer, having goods, they say, worth $10,000. Now, that's a lot of money back then. And unfortunately, he did own quite a few slaves. And the information also said he linked his fortune to the Confederacy when the Civil War broke out in 1861. We don't know if this means that he fought for the rebels or he gave part of his fortune for the cause, but we do know that his store and all of its contents went up in flames. But, however, he did rebuild his fortune after that. Now, there is his first wife here, Mary Cannon, 1829 to 1853, and also his father, William Cannon Sr., 1771 to 1868, and he was born in Virginia. Now there's Eliza L. Chandler, 1880 to 1892, Tressie Chandler. She was born in Georgia in 1866, but we don't have a death date for her. Ulysses C. Chandler, 1888 to 1915. Harriet Rebecca Trundle Cowan, 1848 to 1927, and her husband, William Harry Cowan, 1853 to 1938. Now we have their infant son, who was born July 18th of 1881 and apparently passed away the same day. Then there's Sarah Ellender Talbert Cowan, 1822 to 1886. And here's another child, Amanda E. Ellis, February 1846 to March of 1846, only a month old. And Margaret Ann Gilbert, 1836 to 1889. Mary Polly Walker Gilbert. And Mary Polly, man, that must have been the most popular name in the 1800s. I have come across, I couldn't tell you how many Mary Pollys. But anyway, she was 1812 to 1879. And her husband, Richard Gilbert, 1806 to 1883. We also have their daughter, Penelope Jane Gilbert, 1845 to 1918. Margaret J. McNutt Gilmer, 1852 to 1918. Mammy M. Hammer, 1877 to 1898. And to me it looks like a rose is carved on top of her headstone. We do have her mother, Mary Elizabeth McNutt Hammer, 1851 to 1941. And we have Mammy's father, Samuel Mitchell Hammer, 1847 to 1926. And Samuel served as a private in the Company E of the Tennessee Light Artillery in the Union Army during the Civil War. And here's another child, only a month old, Mary R. Hammer, May of 1900 to June of 1900. We have T.D. Manus, 1861 to 1928, and if you notice, his headstone is hand-carved, including the little bird near the top. Then there's Elizabeth Clack Rogers McCrowski, 1805 to 1864, David W. Payne, 1838 to 1908, and we know that David served as a private in the Company K of the 2nd Tennessee Infantry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Then there's Elizabeth Cowan Payne, 1862 to 1903, and if you notice the closed book carved on the top of her headstone, and the closed book can represent a completed life. That's beautiful. And we have her husband, James Alexander Payne, 1850 to 1933, and he has the same closed book on his headstone. Now we have Mary Elizabeth Burns Payne, 1833 to 1922, Sidney Ellen Russell, 1869 to 1887, V.A. Scott, 1895 to 1897, and you'll notice the headstone is a carved out look like a scroll. Then we have Mary Angeline Gilbert Shields, 1839 to 1913, Willie E. Smith, April of 1928 to August of 1928, and he was under just 4 months old. Fred Tinsley, January to August of 1885, only 7 months old, and you'll notice that his headstone says Little Fred. That's just so sad. Have Walter H. Tinsley, 1879 to June of 1880, and that little guy was just only a year old when he passed. Amanda Trundle, 1868 to 1885, and another Anna Amanda Cannon Trundle, 1822 to 1899, Daniel Lewis Trundle, 1814 to 1900, and he came from Maryland. We have his son, Daniel O. Trundle, 1854 to 1855, only a year old. Emma Rachel McMahon Trundle, 1852 to 1929, and her husband, Winfield Scott Trundle, 1851 to 1934. We have James William Trundle, 1840 to 1855, Jane Rebecca Trundle, 1849 to 1851, and she was only 2 years old when she passed. John J. Trundle, November 1840 to March of 1841, just under 4 months old. That's a lot of children there, guys. John W. Trundle, 1856 to 1872. John William Trundle, 1813 to 1851, and he was born in Maryland. Then we have his daughter, Martha Ellen Trundle, 1846 to 1853. And look here, another Mary Polly Trundle, 1851 to 1865, and her mother, Mary Elizabeth Trundle, 1817 to 1893. Now we have Maddie Blanche Dickey Trundle, 1875 to 1933, and her husband, Paul William Trundle, 1873 to 1965. And we actually have a picture of him. We have William Cannon Trundle, 1844 to 1862, and we know that William served as First Lieutenant in the Company A of the 31st Mounted Regiment, which later became the 39th Regiment of Tennessee Volunteers in the Confederate Army during the Civil War, and he did die near Rutledge, Tennessee. We have an infant son of the Whalen family. He is born and died August 31st of 1861. Now we have 6 graves with no pictures, and they are Charles Burns, 1903 to 1937. Mary Wilson Burns, 1762 to 1834. She was born in Maryland. And her husband, William Burns, 1752 to 1829. He also was born in Maryland. We have Lou Davis Hammer, 1877 to 1900. And William Alexander McNutt, 1824 to 1861. And he was a medical doctor. And the last person that we have in this cemetery is D. Wayne Smith, 1920 to 1931. Now, if you notice, and I know you have already noticed, there's only one picture of the person that we found in this little family cemetery. But we do have most of the headstones. So I think a lot of these people, looks like a few of them migrated from Maryland to Sevierville or from Virginia to Sevierville. So I hope you found some ancestral names, some history. I really like these little cemeteries. You see them on the side of the road and you're thinking, oh, it's just this or that. But these people have history. And unfortunately, this cemetery had a lot of children. And that's not history that we like to remember, but it did happen. So, like I've said before, you never know what kind of history is in the mountain area or the grounds or anywhere. You know, you have to do the research. Find your ancestors. You'll be so surprised at a lot of stuff that you can dig up around there. Knowing what they've done in their life. They did have a life, You've got the timeline between death date, birth date. That's your lifetime. Each one of these people had one. And it's good. It's good to get that out. And especially for our younger generation, let's get them interested in it. It's wonderful. But now, next week, I want you to be sure to stay tuned for next week, because we have a video that's coming up that has a whole lot of history in it. So be sure to hit that subscribe, share, like, hit the bell so you can be notified. But we've got a lot of history coming up next week. And we hope you've liked this little video. We don't like to miss anybody, any cemeteries. It's just what we do. And like I say over and over, I love the ancestry looking. I love the history of it. And so we hope to see you, especially next week. And welcome to all our new subscribers. Welcome to the channel. I know sometimes I stumble upon some of these names. I look at them and I'm thinking, oh no, here we go. I'm not going to be able to say this, but I get them out the best I can. And like I said, this is not scripted by no means. It's just, it is what it is. So, like I said, see you next week. I hope to see you next week. And bye-bye for now.